Hello, everyone, and welcome to Odyssey House Journals, one of the most watched podcasts dealing honestly with addiction and recovery. Believe it or not, this is our 74th podcast that we've done since this began. I'm Randall Carlisle, along with Rachel Santizo, and Rachel graces us every week with a new t-shirt. What is it today?
I know today my t-shirt says enough is enough. And so it's standing for equality and social justice and rights. So that is my stance today.
And in no particular group, just a general thought.
Yeah, I mean, because I feel like equality. So there's Black Lives Matter, of course. And then there's also even with stigmas related to somebody that has an addiction and different things. And so I stand for equality, gender-based, just a lot of different ways.
All right. I'm feeling pretty bad today, Rach. I'm feeling old. Did you happen to hear about or watch Murder Among the Mormons, a new Netflix documentary?
No, but I actually came across it last night and I was interested in watching it. So tell me more.
Well, it was back in the mid 1980s, so we're talking 36 years ago, and I watched it last night, and there's a ton of news clips of me when I was at Channel 2 talking about the Mark Hoffman bombing murders.
Oh,
And I saw myself, and 36 years ago, I looked a little younger than I do now.
but here's the thing though, you've aged gracefully. Like you are very handsome. And so I would honor
Oh,
that. So
well,
regardless of what you look like then.
and I was thinking that you and I are both in recovery, and if I would not have quit my functional alcoholic drinking back then, after that, I probably wouldn't be here today. So
Yeah.
that's
And
so.
you definitely wouldn't look the way that you look today
You
either,
know,
which is fantastic.
yeah, well, anyway, so catch it if you can. It was an interesting time because everybody thought there was a crazy bomber on the loose killing people downtown, and it made national news, and it's pretty good. So,
I am definitely going to watch it later and then I'll text you.
and I didn't get a free subscription to Netflix for plugging that, just so in case anybody's wondering. Okay. Hey, we have had some great guests lately. Last week's guest, AJ, you could write a book about his life. I was just amazed by it.
Right. He should write a book about his life.
He should. You could make a movie and people wouldn't believe it. And today we have another great guest. You want to introduce him?
I do. So today we have the phenomenal Mike Cox, and he's gone through Odyssey. He works at Odyssey, and I've been around a lot of our clients, and he knows how to get things done for sure. And so, without further ado, Mike.
Punch up your audio or your video button. Hi, Mike.
Hi,
Hi,
Mike.
how's it going?
Good.
So I actually have seen the first couple episodes of that show. I was watching it last night and I was like, oh my gosh, that is Randall Carlisle. I know him.
Yeah. Yeah. But he looks a little older now.
Yeah, yeah, well,
Yeah.
it took a second. I was like, is that? Oh yeah, that's him. It was the voice that gave it away. I'm like,
Oh,
that's
okay.
totally Randall.
And I
How
can see in
interesting.
I can see in the background you have a prejudice for a certain NFL team.
I do. You know, one of my coworkers has the Denver Broncos on his wall, so I had to, outdo him
Sure, sure.
naturally, right? Because that's what we do.
So this podcast is about, addiction and recovery, and thank goodness you're in recovery like all three of us are. How did it all begin? How about if you can just give us a short synopsis of your life story?
Play by play. Okay, so basically, I was born in California, right? Southern California, and raised by my grandparents. Never really knew my real mom or my real dad. So I had a pretty good childhood, pretty average childhood. Middle class family. Obviously didn't have everything I wanted, but had everything I needed, right? Who has everything they want, right? Uh,
Exactly.
I think things started really going downhill at about 13. Uh, my my grandmother had a stroke and was put into a nursing home, and my pops, bless his heart, worked his butt off to provide for the family, so he was never really home. Um, so it was at that time I started ditching school and, getting involved with the wrong crowds and kind of acting out a little bit. Had no real guidance at the time, and one thing kind of led to another, and dropped out of high school, all that stuff. Um, Ended up moving to Utah when I was, oh gosh, it was 2012. I moved out here.
What made
Culture
you come
shock.
to
Yeah,
Utah?
culture
Exactly.
shock. Yeah, but not too much, right? So like, I took the Greyhound out here, right, and I got off the bus, and well, we all know what used to be at the Greyhound station, right? Good old Rio Grande, right? So I kind of got off the bus and never left. Um,
Why did you come to Utah in the first place?
so my biological dad lives out here, and that's kind of what brought me out here, was hoping to reconnect with him and kind of start a life with him. I was also running from some stuff in California, which was the main reason I came out here. I went into the station and asked for a ticket. I says, "What's the next place out of here?" They said, "Salt Lake City." I said, "You got anything else? Like anywhere else in the world?" They said, "Salt Lake." The only other departures today. Well, the only departure today is Salt Lake City. All the other departures are for other locations, and that's tomorrow. I said,
Thank
"Well,
goodness you didn't watch that movie first, right?
yeah,
Before you came. So
yeah,
So
seriously."
for people who don't remember what Rio Grande, that whole area was like when you got off the bus, what were you greeted by, and how did that play into your addiction?
Honestly, so it was it was a lot of kind of lawlessness. It was its own type of controlled chaos. A lot of people suffering from homelessness, which I happened to be at the time, right? So I kind of fit right in. People selling drugs, people just doing drugs out in the open, people kind of doing whatever they wanted to do. And you had a lot of great people that come and try to give to the homeless population. So you really don't have to leave the area for it, or didn't have to leave the area for anything. You could sit right there on the island and do your do what you wanted to do, and people would bring you food, people would bring you clothes, people would, the showers were right there at the Wiggins Center. So you kind of had everything you needed, and
and
didn't have to leave.
it kind of seems like leading up to this point, you were trying to find a sense of feeling a part of and supported, right? And it just kind of trickled down, and then you end up on Rio Grande. And then what happened?
Yeah, so I then spent about the next 5 years kind of wandering, lost, right? Uh, Doing drugs, running, kind of similar to how it all started, right? Just hanging with the wrong crowds, living kind of day to day, fix to fix, hour to hour, minute to minute, taking advantage of whoever I could to get what I wanted, right? Most days I would work a temp job to try to get my needs met, but some days there wasn't work, so I had to, do what I could to get what I felt I needed. Um,
What was your drug of choice back then?
Meth, and then once I got introduced to spice, it switched to spice as the primary, meth as the backup,
Okay.
which is kind of an interesting combination when you think about it. But I was hooked on spice so bad, I would go through probably a couple $100 a day worth. And when I finally did detox off of it, I had people telling me it looked like I was coming off of heroin. So that stuff is no joke.
Hmm.
It's interesting that you say that because I thought spice was comparable to weed, marijuana, right? And then I used to be that person that would go down to the block. Rio Grande is also called the block, and do the clothing and the donations and all those things. And I would see people nodding out and they were actually on spice. But
Yeah,
from my former knowledge, I thought it would be heroin. And so I could see the destructive nature of this spice. It's not this organic type of drug by any means.
It is not. No, that's actually why I started trying it, because, I would do the math, and then I would use marijuana to calm down, right? And then it's kind of hard to get a job when you have THC in your system. And like I said, I was kind of trying to find work. I was always kind of trying to do the right thing, but I was suffering from homelessness. So I always ended up back at the block. And, it's kind of, you're only going to be at the barber shop so long before you get a haircut, right?
Right. And that's right. They
That's a
didn't
good,
test for spice, right? Like drug
Uh,
tests did not include spice.
yeah, it didn't back then. And it was actually legal when I first started it.
right. How
So,
did, couple $100 a day, temp work doesn't provide that. How in the world did you finance your habit?
I mean, you do what you can, right? You take the 50, $60 you earn at the temp job, you buy a little bit, use a little bit, sell a little bit, uh, and just kind of keep flipping it to get what you need.
Were you happy?
Oh no, not at all. Like I said, I was always waiting for a way out, trying to find a way out, but I always found my way back. Um,
Well, and now you're sitting here and you have this wedding ring on your finger.
I
How
do.
did you get from
I
the
do.
block to where you are today? Like what was your pivotal point in your life?
Um, I had really just got fed up, and I knew there was something better for me, right? And I had been calling the VOA. This is Operation Diversion. For those that don't know what that is, it was basically, I consider it like the test run for Operation Rio Grande. It was the original Operation Rio Grande, and that had just started. I think it was like the first wave, and I was calling the VOA day after day after day after day, and they just said, "Sorry, we don't have beds. You know, we're all booked up because of Operation Diversion." And I got frustrated after about a week, and I said to the person on the phone, I said, "What do I have to do? Take drugs to a cop and catch charges just to get a bed and change my life?" And they couldn't really help me on the VOA, right? I was just another disgruntled addict. Uh, and as someone in the field now, I kind of see where they were coming from. Like, dude, we're sorry. Like, there's nothing we can really do for you unless that's what happens. Luckily, there was a staff member at the road home that overheard this conversation. Uh, Real angel in disguise, has to be. Pulls me to the side. He was the VA rep at the time. I can't even remember his name. I'm not a veteran. He was just an all around good dude. Uh, Pulled me to the side and said, "You don't have to catch a new charge. What would you do if I said I could get you into treatment in the next few hours? You don't have to pay a dime. You're good to go." I said, "I'd get my stuff and I'd get in your car." So he then directed me to the community actions place, which was right across the street from the road home at the time. They assessed me, and then took me to admissions, where I met some wonderful people. And from there, I was transported to the adult house, now called downtown, Odyssey House. And that's where my treatment journey began.
How did the operation motivate you? Because it seemed like once the operation was in place, then you really wanted to get treatment. And why was that?
Well, I think, like I said, I had always deep down wanted to change, right? I knew there was something better for me. And I had eventually just got fed up. And then when I saw Operation Diversion happening, and all of a sudden it wasn't really like, I didn't know much about rehab or treatment or anything like that. And then the block was kind of flooded with all this information of, there's Odyssey House, there's First Step, there's the Haven, there's all these wonderful places that want to help people. Uh, and that's when the seed was kind of planted, right? And I was like, okay, maybe that's what I need, right? Maybe that'll help me, right? Then I got to the adult house and I was like, holy Toledo, right? And it was kind of another culture shock, but another different type of controlled chaos, right? But I think what kept me going through all of it was the fact that I really wanted it. Right? I didn't want to go back, and I was going to do whatever it took to not go back to where I came from.
A lot of the people especially relatives of people, of addicts, want to know, because their kids are still in active addiction, they want to know what it is, at what point, that prompts you to just make the decision, I'm done with this and I'm going to get some help. I mean, is there any magical answer to that?
I don't, I don't think there's some kind of magical moment. I mean, there is a magical moment for a person. Uh, what what it takes to kind of activate it or make it click, I think really varies upon the addict, right? For me, like I said, it just built up to a point where I was at rock bottom. I didn't have family, right? I didn't have friends. I had the people I associated with on the block. Uh, all my family had passed away. I had my biological father who he's his own, battling his own demons, right? So I have to keep distance from him, and it was really just like a moment in my life where I remembered my early childhood and the person I was raised to be, and how bad I wanted to be that, right? And I never really forgot the morals and all the good things my father taught me. And I wanted to be a dad, and I wanted to be a good husband, and I wanted to be a good member of society, right? I wanted to help others. And there was no way I could do that where I was. So I think something just finally clicked, like I said, when the diversion happened, and there were all these opportunities given. And then I started meeting Odyssey House graduates and seeing the wonderful things they were doing for the community. People like Rachel Santizo right there,
Thank you.
uh, seeing the good work they were doing, giving back, and being, I want to be that one day. I want to be that guy one day. And luckily, I have that opportunity.
How old were you when you went into Odyssey? And look at you now, Mike, like you are that. Like, how did Odyssey help you get to where you are? So now it's not just words, you're actually living proof of it.
Yeah, I think the thing that worked most for me for Odyssey was the structure. How that it's a therapeutic community, right? So I think hearing from people that are in the same spot as you, and people that have been where you are, and then the graduates coming and giving back, and therapists and staff members who aren't going to baby you, right? Because they didn't do that back then when I was in treatment, right? There was no babying. It was, we're going to call you on your stuff, and we're going to help you fix it, and we're going to help you get through it. And if you put in the work, we promise you you're going to have a better life. And I think having faith in these people, learning to trust others, which is hard for a lot of people that come from where we come from, right? Like, we come from a world of people that if they got nothing to gain from you, they don't want to help you. And the people at Odyssey House really showed me, like, we don't want nothing from you, but for you to be the best version of yourself. And we believe in you, and we know you can do it. And I hadn't had that since my pops passed away. And I didn't have someone kind of in my corner saying, you can do it. The only thing we want from you is your success. Like, and that was amazing to me. That was a game changer.
And how long did it take you, and where are you now? And I've got to share, I mean, where you are now is happily married with a child you dearly love, because you
Yeah,
post a million pictures every day on Facebook. So, but
yeah.
how'd you get to that point?
I think it all worked out when I continued to live by the values and morals I was taught growing up, and continued to live by the things Odyssey taught me. Things like unconditional peer support, right? Just stepping up for others, right? Working hard, making sure a job gets done, even if you got to do it yourself, right? Um, Things like that, and just basically integrity, right? Be the same in the light that you are in the dark, right? If someone asks you to do something, they know you're going to do it right. They don't got to worry about you doing some sneaky stuff behind the scenes. They can say, hey, can you do this? You say yes, and they know it's done. Being that type of person, um, just reliable, honest, you know, that
And
type of
now,
person, and everything kind of just fell into place, right? Ended up meeting my now wife, right? Well, fiance. We are we're gonna tie the knot once COVID dies down, right? We want a normal wedding where people don't have to wear masks. Uh, so yeah, and it all just kind of fell together. Like just, I guess you could say, like they teach you here at Odyssey, just continue to do the next right thing.
Now
And your
you,
son, you have a wonderful son
To
who
do.
is just cute as hell. According, from the pictures, I haven't met him. How's that make you feel? I mean, you go from the depths of being down on the block to having a loving partner and a great son, and now you're working at Odyssey House. I mean, how do you feel?
I mean, words can't really describe it, right? Like I feel like I finally accomplished a dream I've had in my life. Kind of, I always wanted to be a father, but there was always that fear of what could I offer, right? And I feel like now I have plenty to offer as far as wisdom and guidance and all the things a father does, right? Teach him how to play ball and, teach him his work ethic, all those things that I didn't really know before. Well, I always knew how to play ball. For those that don't know, Odyssey has a softball team. We're pretty awesome. Uh,
Yeah, but the work ethic bothers me. I see you have him pushing the sweeper around the house or the vacuum cleaner around the house already. Don't you think he's a little young for that?
hey, I mean, you got to put your work in, right? No free lunch. Ain't no free lunch.
And, and you're running a program now at Odyssey House. Describe that.
I am, yeah. So I am the program manager at our lighthouse facility, which is a huge honor um, to be trusted in this type of position. Basically, my job is a lot of making sure the facility is up to code and maintenance and things like that. But I think the bigger part of it is, for myself anyway, is being able to work with the clients and kind of guide them along the path, as well as ensuring and being that feedback and that voice for the program and the foundations and our traditions and making sure things like that don't get lost in translation as we bring in these newer clinicians and newer people that aren't necessarily affiliated with Odyssey, because anyone who knows anything about Odyssey knows we are our own animal. Right? There's a lot of things we do that are different from what everyone else does, and that's what makes us the best in the state. We've got 31 awards
Yeah,
now,
31.
right?
Yeah.
And we've been the best since we started in the 70s. The
so
programs
coming,
evolved. Programs definitely evolved to meet the needs of the people, and it will continue to do so. We'll continue to save lives.
is it safe to say, so coming from the environments that you have, right? And now you're running a program and things have changed a lot because of COVID, but is it safe to say that you have acquired some skills so that you can help people that are newly trying to get sober in this challenging time? Like, how was that for you?
Oh yeah, I've I've absolutely acquired skills. Basically, coming through Odyssey, they teach you skills, right? Which you can pass on. There's the DBT skills. There's coping skills. There's CBT. All the T's, all the ABCs, right? Uh, and then just community partners and people like that. People like you, Rachel. People like Casey Erickson with FTR. Uh, there's people in YPR I know. There's people at USARA I know, kind of resources uh, to direct people to, but also using my own personal experience. Right, like I keep my certificate on my wall here in my office, uh, so people know when they come in and say, "Well, you just don't know what it's like." I kind of give them, yeah, that funny look like Rachel did. Well, and then I slowly point to my certificate, and then they see, oh, you're a graduate, yeah. So, and that kind of opens the mind, right? Makes them more receptive to the feedback. It's easier to take advice from someone who has been there, in my experience, right, than from someone who kind of learned everything in school, right? Uh,
Yeah.
Plus, I'm also in school, which is helping teaching me more skills. Uh, Working towards, I'm thinking probably a CMHC is where I'm going to head. Focus more on the mental health part of it all.
And, and a lot of people, a lot of our clients who do come in have co-occurring problems. I mean, not just the substance use, but mental issues as well.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of times I'm checking in with clients and they got they got stuff going on. And I'm like, shoot, hey, you're crazy, I'm crazy too. Let's talk, right? And it builds that rapport with them. Uh,
And
and like,
that's sort of the magic of Odyssey House. I mean, if people look at it from the outside, they say, well, I don't want my addict kid or my addict husband or wife going in being working with a bunch of other recovering addicts, but that really is why it works so well.
yeah, yeah, I think there's a solid balance, uh, and I think a lot of Odyssey success is due to that, right? And it's the value of the TC is graduates coming and working here and giving back and pursuing their careers and their degrees and being able to be a well-rounded professional, a well-rounded clinician in order to guide these newer people along the same path. And at the same time, we have the balance of people who just have the degrees, right? Maybe they have a loved one or something that suffered with addiction. And sorry, I'm in my office and my door kind of,
It's okay.
Let me in, let me
yeah,
in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
constant knocking. So,
yes.
but yeah, but maybe they, they have the skills that they learned at the U or, or wherever, whatever school they went to. And maybe they have a loved one who's suffering with addiction and that's why they got into this field. So they still have experience with it, even though they didn't necessarily deal with it themselves. And I think it's people like us that can change a lot of these lives and save a lot of these lives.
We're
Right.
out of time. We're out of time, Mike. If we could wrap this up, would you just summarize your observation about life, about your old life in addiction and your new life now? Compare addiction and recovery.
Oh, okay. I mean, addiction's brutal, right? Like for me, I was grimy. I would do what I had to do, like I said earlier, to get what I need. I was shady. I was shisty. I was a liar. I wasn't someone that could be trusted, right? Life was dark and gloomy. And now it's pretty much the polar opposite of all of that. Life is great. Like you said, I have an amazing fiance who truly loves me for me, right? I have the most adorable son in the world. I know everyone says their kid's the cutest, but sorry, mine is.
He is.
um,
I
yeah,
agree.
and life is great. Like I said, I'm blessed to work for an amazing company that changed my life. I truly believe in what we do and everything we stand for, and I'm blessed to be able to give back. And life is great. It's fun. It's happy. I have real friends, real family, and I couldn't ask for more. So,
Mike, you are one of a kind. Like, thank you for doing this. You are seriously one of a kind. And I was looking at my graduation certificate. I'm reminded, and I need those reminders. And then I also have another reminder in my house. Behind me is a picture of Randall, and it's hanging in my living room.
And
And so, like where we've been and where we are, it's really
yeah,
important for us
yeah,
to honor those things that we worked so hard to achieve. So again, you're one of a kind. Like, thank you for being on here.
yeah.
yeah,
Thank you for being here.
thank you guys for having me.
And thank you all out there for watching another edition of Odyssey House Journals.